Okay, so it's still in progress, but I couldn't hardly hear it. Is the sound all the way down?
Good. Let me open this up real quick. Um, Is it?
I think we might be recording. But the video is off. That's that.
Let me see, where's, you said we're recording?
I heard it, but I heard it like faint. Do you want to stop?
All right,
recording?
let me.
Yeah, you want to do it all over again, because
let
it
me
was
make
all
sure-
set up, it was working, and then I just left it for an hour. The video has a slap. In progress. What did you do?
Sergio, can you still not see me?
If your laptop possibly has like a screen door that you can, like a slide that you can move over maybe? Because I see your initials, but I don't see, it's completely blacked out.
It says that I have video.
Posting.
And I've never had the problem with it before. I don't know. No, I'm looking at my green camera.
It's Jennifer Barkley.
I know it says Jennifer Barkley, but it's Jennifer Johns.
Yeah, there's both.
It's short. Everyone covered up. There you go. In fact, I have clients.
Sergio, whenever you're ready, tell me when.
You're ready.
All right, I'm gonna call this meeting of the Munster Planning Commission to order for Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. Please set your phones on stun and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sergio, Denise, nice to see you. Denise, please call roll.
Ms. Brannigan? Dr. Hopper? Here. Ms. John is online, but is unable to view. Mr. Peterson? Present. Mr. Hampton? Here. Mr. Finken is not here, and President Bates.
Present. All right, we have a quorum. Next up is the approval of minutes. First up is, do we have to do, could we do them all as minutes, Mr. Wicklund, or do we have to do them individually?
You can do them all.
So entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August 13th, September 10th, and October 8th, as you see fit.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
There's a motion to approve the minutes for those three meetings. Is there a second?
A second.
And a second, any discussion? Be there none. Sergio?
Ms. Brannigan?
Yeah.
Dr. Hopper? Yes. Ms. Jones?
Yes,
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
and Mr. Baker.
Yes, moving right along, no preliminary hearings. Next up are the public hearings. First up is PC 24-010 Development Plan Review for Jim Glascott with WT Group for the Munster High School John E. Fred Athletic Complex and proposing a reconfiguration and improvements to the baseball and soccer fields at 8823 Columbia Avenue. I've heard of that place. Mr. Mendoza.
Correct. So the Munster School Corporation is looking, School Town of Munster, sorry, is looking to update their baseball field and soccer field. Essentially, they're looking to overlay the soccer field over the existing baseball diamond that they have and use artificial turf. Their initial proposal 2 weeks ago identified bleachers near the residential property. They've since revised their plan to remove the bleachers near the residential property, and staff, during staff report, they are recommending additional landscaping requirements or above what minimum requirements are adjacent to the residential property as outlined in the staff report. I will turn this over to our on-call planner, Jennifer Barkley, if she has anything else to add. If not, then we'll turn it over to you, sir.
Ms. Jennifer.
Like Sergio said, the only thing we're recommending is have a dense buffer or a fence between basically the two existing sheds to buffer that field. Beyond that, everything else was compliant.
Anything else from staff? Any questions for staff? Be there none, is there somebody to speak on behalf of the petitioner on this issue? Please step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sean Bagley. I'm the Director of Operations at the School Town of Munster, and I'd just like to introduce the why behind the project. As you all know, Munster High School will provide share athletic facilities, so it is a limited space. The artificial turf is more durable, and this would also give us a more flexible space where we'd be able to use this as a practice facility for our soccer team, baseball outfield for our baseball team. We could also use it as a football practice field should the need arise. And we'd also like to have the same practice surface that our soccer team is using, since we made updates to the lighting system at the main high school football field. The soccer has moved over to playing their games on turf. And then we've also had to have several cancellations with baseball in the spring due to drainage issues with the grass. We got this idea. We went and visited Valparaiso High School, has a similar setup. Cranford High School, New Jersey has a similar setup. So we researched this, and this is how we came to this idea. I can turn it over to Ed Wright, the architect, if you have any technical questions.
Thank you. Sir, please state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Sean Bagley, 12811 Washington Street.
No, I'm talking about the next guy. You did that already. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Ed Wright. I'm with the LA Architects. I fall under the same address as the school. Effectively, just the only other thing to really talk about is the timeline and what we're trying to accomplish here. So ideally, we know we have to go in for the engineering review after this. We're hoping to be able to begin demolition and excavation ahead of that to maintain the schedule. Ideally, we're trying to have this completed in the spring so baseball doesn't lose any games. So that's we're really under a time crunch here with that. The only other thing I would add is we're adding a significant amount of detention to the project. So there's currently storage capacity underneath the field. We'll be expanding that storage volume for this and having additional capacity should we move forward with the parking lot project in the future, which is something we hope to bring out in the next couple months to you all.
I have a question. Are you finished? I'm sorry.
Sure, yes.
All right, so bring it back to the board. So wait, parking lot, where in this concept, are you looking in the future to add a parking facility into this particular location?
That we're considering the north side, north of
I'm looking
field
there.
there, yes. So that's not part of this application. We're really just focused on the field. We are looking to do that in the future. That's something we're gonna apply for, but we're adding additional detention volume in case we do that.
So I'm looking at a baseball field. Where's the soccer field?
So if you see those two areas on the west side that kind of stick out,
So there's no overlay of the baseball field and where you're looking to lay out the soccer field and how the stands are gonna align as it for each of those individual activities?
I think if you kind of scroll up where the highlighted or colorized drawing is, you can get a better sense of how that's laid out. Sort of. But effectively, the soccer is sort of shift to the northwest, keep it away from the homes and be able to fit the full length field in. So that's why it has that sort of awkward geometry there.
So is this field gonna be used for just soccer practice and they're playing on the football field? Is that what you said? So all the games will be on the football field, but the practice will be on this baseball / soccer field?
Correct. There may be a one time during the year where they do a tournament and bring teams in where they would use
All-time
all
games.
three, because we do have that practice field just to the east of the football field that can be used as a contest, have a contest on that field. So this would be one time per year for a contest, but the bulk of it would be for practice.
So please help me with the schematic. I'm looking at two boxes that are just lined in without any fill-in. One of them is going all the way to Columbia Avenue. What's that one? This is your drawing, not mine.
So you're looking in this corner here.
Yes, I am. Gonna take that all the way to Columbia Avenue. What's that line that goes all the way to the street?
So this
All the way to the.
that's a
line.
dimension string.
That's a what?
A dimension line.
So that's not a soccer field layout.
No,
This is the soccer, no, the soccer starts at this corner and continues through here. So this is the corner kick here, corner kick here, corner kick here, corner kick here. Those are just dimensions.
So you play over second base, basically.
Basically, that's the
Correct.
one slight overlap there, but kind of a confined space. The fencing here is movable. So for baseball, there'd be
temporary.
temp fence there that would move out of the way.
Where's
from
this
soccer.
line here?
So you wouldn't have to install or bring, if there was that soccer tournament, to bring in temporary bleacher systems? Or are there gonna be bleacher systems as a part of this?
As of this project right now, we're not, because we understand that's gonna be a bigger process to do that, so we're gonna spend some time developing that.
And can you point to on there where you're talking about this parking lot picture?
It would be up here. In
Okay,
in this area.
So where's 35th Street?
Be right here.
Okay. So there's gonna be that much space between the end of that field all the way to the 35th Street?
Currently, the field runs from here to here.
And you're dropping it, so you're no longer gonna be using that north end of the current fields.
Correct, that would open it up.
So as part of this, we're also eliminating 3 of the large sports field lighting that are no longer needed because that field's not there.
That's where the Hawks stay.
No, the Hawks are
Or
right.
down here.
We did not move the Hawks. We specifically left those in.
So you're dropping lighting further south because of the fact of the reconfiguration.
We're eliminating the lighting. We're not adding anymore.
Yeah, they're pulling by the storage shed basically out that way.
Yeah, those can go now. So should be a little better condition for neighbors with that.
From the field to 35th Street and the fence line to the east by the property. So basically the white section. How are you guys addressing the grading that area? For drainage and stuff to make sure we're not getting any kind of ponding along the fence line on the east side for homeowners.
Mind if I introduce a third person?
What's that?
Do you mind if we introduce a third person? We have the civil engineer here to speak more
So I
technically.
was looking, I couldn't find the civil drawings out here. I was trying to look for one.
My name is Jim Glasgow. I'm with the WT Group, effectively same address as the architect in the school district. So what we are doing around the perimeter of the field is we are going to regrade that into a series of inlets that end up getting piped into the new detention system that we're putting under the field. I don't know if we can get over to our utility plan or our grading plan in the application. There we go.
I didn't see any kind of.
I didn't see any stormwater plan.
I need drawings on this.
It was, that's what you were looking at previously, yeah, I think it's stuff. You have a large paper copy. I don't know. Do you have the full PDF I submitted with the plan set?
We do, I probably have it probably in a different file. I mean, we don't have access to it.
Are you able to point to where the inlets are on their gym at least?
Yeah. So effectively, we are providing a series of inlets along the perimeter of the outfield. That's going to be piped into an underground detention system. We're using what's called the Storm Tech system. It's basically, if you've ever seen those yellow.
Storm trap.
It's similar, but it's
Precast.
plastic construction.
Trap,
Yeah,
precast.
yeah, it's plastic. For this application, it works really well because there's not a lot of loading on it. It's cheaper, it's quicker, it works for our schedule a little bit
More
better.
economical, not cheaper.
Economical, sir.
Is that a holding tank and got a release rate coming out to the storm that'll hold so much volume underneath that field until it goes out to the.
To the street, I'm assuming it's gonna go out to where's the release?
So the way this is gonna work, we're gonna put the new system under essentially right field. Ed mentioned that there's another system already in place that's kind of under just to the south of the first baseline. Those two systems are both gonna tie into the existing storm sewer that drains down to the pond to the south of the practice field, that then ultimately discharges into the creek along the south side of the site. So everything's gonna go directly to the creek. We are sizing this system based off of the city's code that allows, I believe it's 2.2 CFS per acre of disturbance. So that's sized for this. We also analyzed to make sure that we're not increasing the amount of flow from the overall site. So we are reducing from approximately 32.19 CFS to 31.54 for the overall area, basically the entire sports complex. So we are reducing that flow a little bit. But yeah, effectively, this all comes into the underground detention system here that pipes out to the existing storm sewer up the east side of the practice field and then down to the existing pond at the south end.
So is this the field where you're basically putting a concrete curb around the perimeter with a nailer or 2x4?
Yes,
So you're gonna
exactly.
put stone and putting your drainage boards or square tiles throughout there. And then run
Exactly.
into that trap.
But this is basically just hard surface stuff.
Well, you also have the permeability of the 3/4 stone you're gonna use underneath there and probably the 1/4 chips on the top, right?
That's just,
Yeah,
we can have the damn same system though, right? So what's the
Well, there's-
volume gonna be based upon that entire system now no longer?
It's not a hard surface per se, Paul, because the fabric has holes in it, the spread turf, field turf, whatever you're using with the pile will have drainage through there that'll go into tiles into the holding pit and then release right in. Am I correct on that?
Exactly, yeah. So the water
Same
will
fields I
infiltrate.
did at Northwestern, Mount Carmel High School, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So the water infiltrates through the carpet, the turf on the top of the field, down to that stone, like you said, 3/4 inch and a finer graded material kind of at the top into a series of panel drains, basically at 20 feet on center and kind of a herringbone configuration to a perimeter drain that's effectively going to be around the edge with, again, the curve, like you mentioned, in a stone trench that's going to bring that water all the way around to our detention system. So that system does allow some infiltration into the subgrade soil kind of overall, because you're not creating a fully impermeable surface like it would be with a parking lot. We look at it more towards the impermeable end than we would as just a grass area, but there is somewhat less in runoff. But then we size that detention system for that amount of water that we calculate to be running off of that system.
You're speaking in CFS. What does that mean and how, like, what is like a good volume of per you were using that unit?
Sure. So a CFS is a cubic foot per second, which it's a hard calculation to throw together. I really.
But you were like, what number did you say? You said
So,
20?
so it was 32. The existing is 32.19 CFS and it drops to 31.54. So it's a slight reduction, but it is a reduction. And we are sizing our system per the city's code, or per the town's codes.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Back to the experts. First of all, it brought to my attention, Sergio, can you please go to the colored map there? It brought to my attention that under accessible route general notes, all accessible routes shall comply with the applicable codes. Illinois Accessibility Code 2018 Department of Justice, ADA, you're in Indiana, right? Can we get that fixed, please?
Certainly.
Okay. Let's go up to the immediately prior rendering under general notes. This caught my attention because I'm not a big fan of switcheroos. And I'm looking at something here that suggests that standard nursery stock talks about Illinois, and it may be substituted with container stock for shrubs. What does that mean?
Effectively, it's trying to give the contractor a little bit more flexibility in providing the materials. So rather than bring it from a known nursery, it would be more of a palletized system for the plantings. I'm not a landscape expert. We hire a third-party landscape designer that creates these, but I believe that's the intent of that note.
Okay, but I mean, we're not talking about, you're offering shrubs and we get some piece of container or something.
No, yeah, it's just where you would be getting that material from.
Okay. All right, and then how much community outreach has the school done on this proposal?
Most of the signs, and we work with our parents, and we work with coaches.
Okay, but I mean, have you talked to the people on the east side of the field?
We have not.
Okay, I'm on the town council, and this is one of the things that we do is, and Dr. Hofferth can weigh in. I see he's looking at me.
I'm listening to you.
So when we are offering to do things that might have an impact on people, we have done things like send officers out to survey the neighborhoods and engage in a more robust process of seeking community input than just what's done here. Is that something that you would be willing to consider? Because I know we have a group of residents here that were here last time, and I encouraged you folks to engage with them. Did you?
So we did meet with them after the previous hearing. We discussed the project and heard some of their concerns with the bleachers, kind of discussed through what we were doing with the drainage. So we did stick around for 15, 20 minutes after the previous meeting to discuss with those folks.
Was there any other communication?
Not from, I'm not here.
Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Serge, I have a question for you. How did staff handle the landscaping requirements for this particular unique location?
I will defer that to Jennifer Barkley. She's going to review that portion of it compared to our zoning ordinance. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can upload the civil engineering process.
So Jennifer, I'm looking at this landscaping sheet and you have a bunch of trees between the street on Columbia and there, and that's it. And I was just curious as to how this was derived.
As far as staff's recommendation for the buffer or what's along the street?
How you applied whatever was, codes or ordinances or whatever public sector terminologies needed to request plantings of trees and shrubbery. How did that come to be?
So we look at what the code requires and we apply the most reasonable standards. This is a bit of a different application just because you don't normally get ball fields. And we thought it was reasonable based off of what the code required beyond what was suggested as the buffer.
So I'm looking at the aerial and there's a bunch of trees in this area already. So we just added more trees to already the forest that we have, but the rest of the site, including along 35th and including along the property line with the residents, there's no landscaping requirement. And is it irrigated? I mean, I know we require irrigation for all tax-paying entities to put that into the landscaping plan for the site. Are we incorporating that here as well?
I can't speak to the irrigation.
I'm not talking about.
However, the buffer,
That's a
staff
government thing
has
that would happen.
determined that the buffer yard would be required, which is why it's a conditional. It's a condition of approval, is what we're recommending.
Okay, so you're recommending it, but that's the only thing that you're recommending. You didn't take into consideration 35th Street, the size of the parcel, nor the east portion of this particular site.
That is correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for the petitioner before we open this up for public hearing?
So the area that's the north end of the field to the 35th Street. That looks like a pretty big area of land. Is that gonna get dressed up in any way? Or is it just gonna wait?
Because it's gonna wait for asphalt. That's what it's gonna wait for.
I mean, as of right now, it's grass, it would be.
So it'll be a grassy area?
Correct. That's what's there, so we're leaving it as is.
Can I ask a point of clarification, please? Just because I
Who's this,
can't.
Jennifer?
Yes,
All right,
the landscaping that you just discussed. I'm assuming, I was under the impression that the staff recommendation was to plant minimum 6-foot high, fast growing trees along the adjacent property line that butts up to the residential on the east side of the property. Is that where you were just, that is part of this plan? Yes?
no,
No.
nothing on the east side, nothing on the north side. It looks from the aerial, Jennifer, that they're proposing to put more plantings along the tree line that's existing. And I would best describe it as the left field line fencing by the batting cages / bullpen, for lack of a better term.
But it doesn't address, and thank you. It does not address the adjacent residential property on Beatrice Lane that backs up to this.
Does not.
And that was not part of the staff recommendation. I misunderstood the staff recommendation.
That was not part of the staff recommendation.
Okay.
To clarify, the staff is recommending exactly when you started talking, exactly what you said.
Okay. So
Growing evergreens, which isn't shown on the drawing, the landscape drawing, between the two existing sheds along the east property line highlighted in yellow, of which the highlighting also includes the right field fence line for the baseball diamond. So, I mean, some clarification as it relates to how you're gonna handle this yellow portion as it pertains to landscaping would be beneficial.
Sure, that's the first time we've seen that comment. We're happy to accommodate whatever the requirement is.
Wait, that comment was a part of your submittal.
That's
No?
That's a condition.
that's why I asked for clarification. I,
10-4, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Was there any particular reason we're not looking at that part? On this site, is there any particular reason the east section was not addressed as it pertains to landscaping, or was it only focused on what's facing the school?
The reason it wasn't initially included is because it's basically the same footprint that the current field is. We're not really changing that, so we didn't assume that it needed to be there. We're happy to accommodate them.
Well, there's not very much room there, is there?
There really is,
No.
it's pretty tight.
no.
You can only run it from right center out a little bit to the building.
There
I
is
feel
also
that it's an
greenery
opportunity.
going Around that side, so we want structures to contend with that. Hopefully the trees take root.
Right, and if there's no irrigation, that's gonna be tough, I get it.
It is.
10-4. Any other questions, Jennifer?
No, but I would like to see that addressed, and you're right about the irrigation. I feel like it's an opportunity to correct
No, I mean, the fields in and of themselves obviously are gonna be fake, so you don't have to water them. It's just gonna
Correct.
be the aesthetics along Columbia Avenue with the cool fence that's up there, that's now got a lot of stuff hanging on it. Plus, how are we gonna address the maintenance of those trees And then the more deciduous trees you have, the more maintenance you have. So as it drops acorns, leaves, everything else, you have to do that. Sometimes it's beneficial to look at evergreens that grow fast. If you're looking to do that, you don't have to do a lot of maintenance once they start and take root. So it's a long-term benefit if you're not looking to move them. Anything on the north side, you're not gonna wanna do because you're gonna asphalt it at some point, right? That'll be a discussion that we'll be looking forward to having with y'all. Any other discussions for the petitioners, questions, comments? Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we're gonna open up this time for the public hearing perspective. If you'd like to comment on this petition, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and help us make it a better thing. Once, yes, ma'am.
I think they're all great. Laura Stewart, I live at dead end on 1209 Fisher. Been over there about 22 years. So when you're talking about the trees, just remember that there's wires right above that east side also. So if you do fast growing trees, you're going to contend with the wires. We planted them on our side of the fence to buffer because until this year, the lights shone for 2 blocks over there. We were just trying to buffer the sound and the light. Also, the existing drainage that ties to the retention pond, there's a restrictor on that. It's not a big line, so you'll probably have to put a bigger line in on that whole east side to drain anything you're going to put into. Jonathan had brought up a note from one page and I looked at it and it says plant materials must be supplied within 150-mile radius of project site within Northwest Illinois. Another one. Yeah, the school hasn't been a good neighbor. We get a lot of, the sound, the lights, the garbage. They haven't been good about maintaining what's there. When they redid the field years ago, like if you look at the new fence on the outside, not the chain link, it's busted all over the place. The school administration asked me to send pictures and then they send people out to mow or to do other things, but I'm just concerned about how, if they don't maintain what they already have, how they're gonna handle this. And Sergio, you mentioned something about bleachers. I thought to go in a different location. So by not showing them on there now, I don't know where the other people are gonna sit, but I'm wondering if you're gonna push this through and then add bleachers in the future in the parking lot.
So I just want to clarify that I don't push things through. If they're going to add bleachers at some point, it'd be a modification to the development plan, and they would have to come back and do this process again.
Okay, hopefully they talk to everybody.
And it's also good, I mean, if you have any kind of comments, I mean, the school board has meetings also that you can meet. I mean, it's a great place to,
When
bring
I've
some stuff up,
talked to
and
the
I've been to
administration
school
in the
board
past,
meetings.
when I've talked to administration in the past, for years before they redid the field, they said the back gate didn't lead to anywhere. They used to take tickets there at every gate. It was a paved path, but it didn't lead to anywhere. So I didn't get very far with them. When I addressed where they tied in the bike path to our dead end, they said, well, this isn't ours. I said, yes, it is yours. You don't maintain it, but it's yours. So, yeah, I've tried.
Well, it's nice because we do have the superintendent here that's actually involved, a new superintendent.
The
which
new one, I don't know who
which-
that is.
Yes, so he's right here and we're happy to have him engaged now in the
The old
community.
one used to say, well, just email me. It goes right to my phone. The lights are on, it's midnight, flashing in our bedrooms. Yeah. This year, we've had in the last 2 years, the music, the filthy music that they play, very loud. It's horrible.
It's
I've called
nice that we
police.
have a superintendent now that actually lives in town.
I'll give his number.
So, which is nice, as kids are in school, so I think it helps out with the whole continuity with the Munster schools.
All right.
So she mentioned the power lines. Are those NIPSCO lines that run between the field and the subdivisions? Yes. Okay, we're still in public session. Are you gonna speak on as a public person?
Well, if I could, I'd like to.
If you come up on this, we're on public hearing now, so you have to do it under that guide.
That's fine.
Okay.
Brett Heller, both resident and superintendent for School Town of Munster. I live on Margot Lane. I will speak both as a resident, but also I will speak about the fence issue because we have talked a little bit just in the last day about the fence that runs adjacent to our neighbors. We are looking at getting bids to replace that fence line because we know that it's currently black chain link fence. We want to try to look to see what we can do to replace that fencing along there to make it a better looking fence. Because I went and looked at it today. There's some areas that are definitely run down and need to be replaced. And so we are going to look at how we can do that project along that residential area. So just in terms of this project, in general, we do think that it's going to be better for our kids in terms of safety. The drainage, if you've ever been on that field when it's raining, it is a pond in the baseball outfield. And so we do think this is going to be a much better project for our kids and for our community. So we are looking forward to the hopeful start of this project. I will say that if we aren't able to get this passed tonight and then get it to our board at the special meeting tomorrow, it'll be a full calendar year before we are able to do this project, which will end up probably costing us a significantly higher price to run this project, that's ultimately taxpayer dollars to run this project because we're getting a very good price right now. To do this, it'll be significantly more expensive based on the way that prices are going up and labor's going up right now. So just wanted to share that. Thanks.
We're still in a public hearing. Anybody else from the public like to speak on this petition? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is John Gorelchik, 1144 35th Street. What I wanted to mention is the soccer field goes east and west. Hopefully the east side will be the visitors because the sun's going to be in their eyes. I don't know why they're changing it now from a north to south, but probably 95% of the fields that are out there now are north and south. Another thing I would like to mention is, why isn't this in 2 phases? If they're going to add a parking lot, that's going to go up against my property. And I sure would like to see what's going to happen as far as the parking lot there. And also the stands that are going to be put in there, how that's going to affect the residents. So they should put it in 2 phases if they've got a second phase that they're going to present in the future.
Yes, sir. It appears to me, at least from what I've heard, is there's no parking lot as part of this particular pitch. All right, and there's also no new bleachers as a part of this particular pitch. So when they come back for a approval on a new parking lot, we'll go through this whole fun and frivolity again.
Okay. That's all I know.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public to speak on this particular petition? Going once. Well, twice. Bring it back to the board. What say you?
Mr. Chairman, my opinion is I want to, obviously, as you work through staff and go through all this engineering approval they have, the concerns we have is just making sure the water stays on school town amongst your property. We don't want any kind of water running in and affecting the neighbors whatsoever. So as you're doing your design calculations regarding retainage and water circulation off this property, we make sure it drains properly and within the limits of the code for the water drainage. Landscape with me, I think it looks nice. I would urge you as well as Ms. Johns brought up, to take a look at that, the right field and kind of right center area. If there's areas that we can add in some arborvitae's on that to give some shielding from the neighbors to the east. I think that's a good neighbor, policy right there. Thank you for your commitment at looking at that fence down the east line and, addressing the neighbors' concerns regarding the fencing that needs to be repaired and upgraded in the future. So I appreciate that. That being said, I've done these fields before. I've done about 6 of them between Northwestern University and different high schools in the area. I understand the drainage and how this field works. I know it's a great addition for the school town of Munster kids. The way these fields operate, they give you a long spring season that could be really wet, and also the fall season that, this year we're lucky it's been dry, but played high school football. And I remember those days on the fall when it's cold and rainy and you're playing on a muddy field, so.
Best games ever.
Yeah.
Best games ever. Me.
You know, but see, going to Mount Carmel, we went pretty far in the, I hate to say the state championships, so we played those late days, you know? So, but anyways,
Fantastic.
it's a good project. It's one that planning commissions should support, and that being said, I'll make a motion for approval.
So we have a motion. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I'm gonna-
sir.
I'm gonna weigh in here. I'm a graduate of Munster High School, class of '84. We had our 40th anniversary this week. And I played on this field, and I'm familiar with that. But at the same time, I'm also a member of the town council. And I've listened to the folks that live near here. And I've heard their concerns. I've heard their I've heard of stories of the long-standing promises and the neglect of those promises. I've also seen things in these renderings that suggest that perhaps it's not been fully considered and thought of. One of the things I've pointed out suggests that perhaps the engineers have slapped this together in a hurry to get this in front of this planning commission. And I am concerned that promises are being made to pacify the concerns of these neighbors. And I want to point something out. When you have one person that comes here, that takes bravery. It takes bravery if you're not used to standing up in front of a microphone and addressing your fellow citizens. And what I have observed and concluded is that when you have one person doing that, you probably have 10 or 20 other people that think that same way, but just couldn't muster what it takes to come up in front of us. So I am concerned about this. I am a big supporter of Munster schools, but at the same time, this is a community project, and it's a project that affects people that go beyond just the students that use this. And I don't think we are where we need to be in order to move forward with this. I'm not clear what that means. If we set this over for a month and the school town takes some of these ideas that have been presented here tonight, that might allow us to move forward here and get the approvals. But without that fully fledged community-wide engagement, I just have serious concerns about moving forward with this proposal tonight.
Anderson, I respect every one of your comments, and I know,
But
I made a motion in all fairness, right?
It's under discussion though.
What's that?
So we're under discussion.
Yeah, we didn't have a second. Why don't you go into a second in discussion?
We did.
Oh, it was, oh, that's right, Doctor. Yes, I'm sorry. Further discussion is the footprint of the field isn't changing much. You have drainage, you know, speaking of an engineering background, you have drainage that's already considered with the grass that you have here. You're putting in a system that actually incorporates drainage that's less than the standards that are there right now. So drainage isn't the issue on the project, with the grading and stuff. I understand the landscaping and the fencing, but I also look as a taxpayer, and the items that we're talking about right now can all be addressed, I think, with staff, with landscaping, as well as fencing, that we don't cost taxpayers in the town of Munster more money by delaying a calendar year, because coming from the background that does these estimates every single day of my life, nothing gets cheaper. So I feel the school board's pain when it comes to finances, and I don't want to see the town stop a project like this. And Mr. Peterson, that will cost us more money a year down the line.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I hear what you say. My father's a builder, and I understand that these costs go up. And this is about cost. But I think being a good neighbor is priceless. And we have heard concerns raised by our residents that perhaps the school town historically has not been quite the good neighbor that they want to present. And I think being a good neighbor is an important part of being part of our municipality. And the school town has a tremendous impact and an outsized importance here in the town. And when we have these concerns, and concerns about promises made and not kept, perhaps now is the time. This is not a right, what's in front of us. It is a privilege, and it is a privilege we are granting. And we have the school administration here, and because it's a privilege and it's something that we want to do that betters our town, now would be the time for us to have these concerns that have been raised by these residents addressed, and not just these promises in the air that may or may not be fulfilled. So I offer that, and again, I revisit my suggestion that perhaps we set this over for another month so that these concerns can be addressed, so that the school town can engage with these neighbors, just like the town council does when we're making a decision that they can have a significant impact in the community. Maybe that's a good idea here. So I'm going to make a motion to amend your motion, that we set this over for a month and encourage the town to engage with these folks, not just 15 minutes after this meeting, but a more thorough engagement that involves polling the community that borders this area and ensuring that the concerns of these neighbors are being addressed.
Mr. Wickland, you know what my question's gonna be? We have a motion and a second, we're in discussion, and now I've got to present it as an amended motion. So Robert's rule, or whoever, Joe, Bob, who's responsible for the rule on how this process is supposed to work in the public sector? Can you do this? We have to,
I'm the only one that can amend my own motion.
Under Robert's rule, a motion that's made and amended and seconded can be amended on the floor.
I don't think we follow Robert's rules or, we do.
so Mr. Wickland, I still await. So we have a motion and a second, which we didn't vote on. Now we have an amended motion. Is there a discussion necessary after this particular action?
Mr. Chairman, it's a motion to amend the existing motion.
Right. So I have to have a second on your amendment and then discussion on that.
Correct. That's my take.
Is public hearing closed or still?
No, it's still, I haven't closed the
You haven't
public
closed
hearing. No.
Is there anyone that would like to come up and speak again regarding this from the public? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if
No.
I didn't ask.
And then
The
I
only
didn't
reason
do
I'm
the right
asking
thing
this.
and I closed it. I asked if there's anybody else there isn't, so
Okay,
I
so you
closed the
closed it,
public
okay.
hearing, so we bring it back down. All right, we're done with that. So.
Mr.
now we have
Chairman?
a motion, is there a second on Mr. Peterson's amended motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Motion to amend.
Yes. Yes, Jennifer, I don't know, I can't see you, so I don't know what's going on. You want to say something?
I just have a question. The implication of postponing this until next month so that the school town of Munster can convene more accessibly with the residents, that would then necessarily kick this into the following year by delaying that 1 month. There's not a way still to lock down the pricing and the project if we delay this by a month. I'm just clarifying the implications for the taxpayers.
And here's what I look at if I was doing this as a construction schedule. I would be starting these fields as soon as these fall sports are done. I would start the project and I would have this field up and running prior to the baseball season this spring. Correct me if I'm wrong, School Town Munster.
That's correct.
If you delay that, then you will be waiting the whole summer season that uses this area probably for soccer and everything else for all your summer camps that you guys run. And then you'll run into the fall sports season just like you are this season. That would be getting down the following November, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So in turn, that is an extra cost, constructability and schedule wise.
So the month is significant from a financial perspective.
Yeah, because you're pushing this project until next October, November, and you know, you have a certain amount of window to get this open before baseball season in spring. And once that, I guess.
Got it. All right, so there's a construction schedule. So we still have an amended motion. Is there a second? Going once. Going twice. Fails for the lack of a second. So we're back to the original motion, or we gotta start over again, Mr. Wickham? Original motion, and we're still in discussion in that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
with all due respect, would you consider if there's anyone from the public that would like to state any other concerns that we can?
You asked twice.
I just want to make sure before we go on to vote on this, that the school town of Munster is here, and if there's any issues regarding this project and being a good neighbor, that we can make sure everything's addressed.
Well, let's see if we can do it as a part of the discussion, Mr. Raffin. So, Councilman, as it relates to some of the items that you've been made aware of that are of concern, are there any additional concerns from the constituents on this particular project that hasn't already been voiced under this hearing, for lack of a better term?
I don't know. There's been no community outreach, and I would think on a project like this, that has evidence.
Okay, so no, but you don't think they went after it in a manner that you would see most beneficial?
15 minutes after the last meeting is not sufficient, in my opinion.
Okay. So that being said, is there any other discussion as it pertains to the motion in a second? Jen Johns, I can't see you, so do you have any comments on the motion in a second?
No. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion in a second. Mr. Mendoza.
Ms. Brannigan,
To abstain because I'm an employee of the school town.
Dr. Hoffer,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
No.
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. What's the vote, Sergio?
You have 4 an affirmative and 1 nay. 1
All right.
abstain, 1 abstention.
Thank you very much. So that means it passes because everybody wants to know.
Yes, you need 4 affirmative votes for a pass.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
Doctor, while you're here with the school tonight, can we make sure, obviously, future projects that are down the road, that we kind of implement community involvement a little bit more? I mean, I think that's a good thing, like Mr. Peterson said, especially if you're talking about doing this parking lot and other parts of this area. You know, we didn't change too much of the floor plan of this one, but adding parking, lights, and different stuff in the future. It's much better than waiting to the 9th hour before construction season ends.
Absolutely.
We had this planned earlier.
So speaking of which, Sergio, in the past, we've had conversations with regards to preliminary hearings and public hearings. So we'd also like to make sure that we check all the boxes necessary to make sure any new projects that come in before this board goes through a preliminary hearing, so we could vet some of the concerns prior to it being public hearings. So outside of rules and regulations, is there anything that needs to happen to make sure that there's a preliminary hearing that's included as a part of the process moving forward on all new projects that come in front of the planning commission?
Yes, we'll need to amend the existing zoning code, which there's a section number that we can list on the agenda for next month.
Okay.
We cite and reference that and the proposed amendment to allow or require preliminary hearings.
All right, so there's a zoning code amendment, and then is there anything else? Is the rules and regulations, or is that more procedural than anything else?
You would identify that as part of your rules and procedures.
All right, copy that.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mendoza, we've been discussing a technical correction of the zoning code. Could this be part of that technical correction?
It is. It
So
is
that's
identified
part-
in the proposed technical correction.
So what you have just referenced is something that would happen through that process or something separate?
That would happen through that process. However, if the commission would like to take or address that sooner, it would occur under the current zoning code.
Okay, well, my recollection is we're gonna have a conversation about that technical correction first week of November.
That's correct, yes.
I'm just curious, so just in my short time on the plan commission, I mean, we've always had preliminary hearings and then it would go to the public. So how is this different? Like,
Why did that change suddenly? It was
right,
just-
right.
Because we had this old ordinance in there before.
If somebody's reading the zoning code?
You're not incorrect. That is common practice that, in my experience, that site plans, or other plans go through a preliminary hearing initially. the current code reads, our current code reads, it goes to public hearing unless it is part of a amendment to the PUD.
Thank you. All right, moving right along, folks. Next up on the agenda is PC 24-011, the development plan review. Darvesh Patel, property owner, is proposing demolition of the existing bank structure and construction, demolition of the existing bank structure and construction of a two-story, 12,664 square foot medical office building at 100 Chip 20 Calumet Avenue. Mr. Mendoza. This is the site next to Cafe Borgia, because I can't say 120 Calumet Avenue very well.
Mr. Chairman, before we start, I have represented those owners previously in my legal practice, so I'm going to recuse myself of the matter.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, I'm going to take a step out for a moment.
Yes,
We
sir.
can still proceed on that.
You can do this.
I will be back shortly.
Mr. Mendoza.
So this is you're correct, this is the site south of Cafe Borgia, just north of the new immediate care center. We have overlaid their proposed development on the existing site. The existing site consists of the former BMO Harris Bank. They are proposing a two-story, 12,644 square foot medical office building. That is the facility themselves that they're proposing. Lighting plan, I will turn this over to Ms. Barkley, our on-call planner, to see if she's got anything else to add. And then see.
Sure, can we go to the site plan? So the existing structure is more towards the middle of the site that is being demoed. They're adding the building in that corner of the site along Calumet to be more in line with the architectural standards. The parking would be considered the backside here, but they will have like a canopy entrance towards the parking lot. We have sidewalk. There is some existing sidewalk. But they're adding it all the way around the site and around the building. The dumpster is located on the north side. Their handicap parking right up in the front of the building. They have plenty of parking spaces and the landscaping. I believe, can we switch to that? The landscaping plan? It's quite a bit of landscaping for the parking area as well as the site itself, and along the streets. Do you have any questions for me?
I do, it's Bill. Is this building proposed, is it aligned, how do I phrase this? Is it aligned with Cafe Borgia and the buildings to the north as it relates to the setback from Calumet Avenue?
I believe it does. Sergio has a little more local experience.
I'm looking at the plan and no is the answer.
Is that the one with the purple,
Yes.
line?
And my follow-up question is why?
It's much closer to Calumet.
My question is, if it's pulled out so much farther than the other buildings, it changes the visibility of Cafe Borgia as an owner and their streetscape to the north.
The only thing I want to add that is the proposed location of the proposed location of the medical office building is in compliance with the current codes. Cafe Borgia was probably developed under the previous code. And so they would, if they wanted to move the setback on that, they would have to ask for a development standard, right?
So a pragmatic approach to a redevelopment site then goes to the new code, even though it doesn't align with all of the structures surrounding it.
That is correct.
I love copy. Okay. Thank you. Anything else for staff?
Sergio, why do we have a possible stacking issue with having the curb cut off of Hagrid Drive instead of just one entrance off of down Powers Drive coming in and out of that way, similar to what Cafe Borgia has now?
Why do we have that?
Yeah.
They're utilizing existing access.
I understand that, but we don't have to give an existing
We
curb
do
cut.
not.
You could trade it out for dropping the building back. Any other questions for staff? Jennifer, I can't see you, so unless if you have something, you have to pipe up, or I'm just gonna keep rolling along, all right?
Thank you.
So that being said, is there somebody to speak on behalf of this petition? Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Yeah, I know that guy.
For the record, my name is Don Torringa. I'm with Torringa Engineering. I'm the design engineer for this project. The only thing I really can say is I reiterate what Sergio said, and that is that we were applying the current zoning classification and where the building should sit on that zoning classification when this building was set. If it's pushed to match with Cafe Borgia, obviously there'll be a loss of parking.
Are you in excess of parking right now, or are you?
We're in excess.
Okay, how much excess?
It's on the plans. I don't know.
It says you have 110 parking spaces, but how many are required?
On the site plan, my plans.
Is that going there?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the side there. It says the required and then it says how many we actually have.
Oh, okay, so total parking 109. But I don't see what it's required. You know, Leo,
Oh, maybe it doesn't. I'm sorry, I apologize. It does not say.
We have to do the recalcs on that, so, but
I'm just curious, because if you move it
We are
back,
in excess.
you'd lose 11 spaces if you, obviously, you can design your parking, but I'm just.
Is that it, Mr. Tringa? Answer the questions. Did you have anything else to say on this matter?
I do not.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sergio, why are we not receiving like the architectural plans of these drawings?
The architectural plan, the interior build out, or?
No, I mean, I'm looking at what I have from the meeting packet today, and I'm pulling up, I have renderings, yes, and renderings look great and pretty and everything else, but I don't see on here showing me cut sheets showing like building materials, the makeup of the walls. I mean, I don't have like a full architectural set. I see renderings, which are glamorous and nice, but building stuff looks like renderings, so
No.
nothing points out to me, one, how this building's gonna look like with, I don't know, is aluminum siding underneath the tent sign, is this fake brick, is it stone? I have no idea, except for here.
Is there a signage plan? I see all the signs on the renderings, but is there a monument? Are they, obviously it's a multi-tenant building, so does the specs of the signage meet requirements? I'm assuming the answer is yes, or I wouldn't be looking at it.
So the signage is not evaluated at this point. They would have to comply with the current sign code, so.
They would have to comply with the certain,
The
okay.
current sign-
But within the development plan, there's usually a signage plan too, that shows whether or not they want a monument sign, if it's a multi-tenant, where they're gonna put those locations for those signs, how big they are they backlit, how are those things gonna be laid out?
I don't see a monument sign located on the
Well,
site
I mean, they're
plan,
not putting one there.
so they can't put one, it's not on the site plan.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sergio, on jobs like, on buildings like this, we would often ask for the material samples brought in and stuff.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And And it seems like we're like falling by the wayside of things that we used to do to ask for, you know, what the facade looks like regarding materials.
New administration, kid.
We will add that to the checklist that's, we've been using to identify for the applicants to submit, part of that.
Yeah, I would also like to see more detailed elevations, like the renderings are just.
Renderings
Pretty
are
picture.
always glamorous, but guess what? Building doesn't end up looking like
That
the
we
renderings.
never done.
Right, right.
And are there rooftop units, Mr. Tring, on this particular building?
I'd have to, rely on Mr. Rossman, who's the owner. to answer that
I am
question.
Matt Ross with ICS, 1135 Broadway. We're the general contractors and designer of the building, not the architect though. We would use all masonry for this project. So the brick is 100% masonry, full bed masonry. There's a limestone or some type of similar stone to represent a limestone material on the elevations. The original building material was meant to be on the black areas, was going to be a Nichihau material, but it's not allowed. So we would be moving to some type of Lucabon or metal panel system that does comply. There would be rooftop units on everything, so there'd be no mechanicals on the ground whatsoever, and there's no.
There's no screening is showing how those mechanicals are gonna be shielded from the street, so that's part of the requirements as well, is what kind of, shielding for rooftop units. Cause if it's a multi-tenant building, how many rooftops are you gonna put up there? 3? Five?
There's probably about 10. And
10?
then
One for every space.
the
So,
parapets are about 5 foot.
right, so that elevation needs to be included as well, as far as how that's gonna look, because based on the street and how that's gonna be looking, if you're driving north or south on Calumet Avenue or any street in town, how that's gonna look as it pertains to not being able to see all your rooftop units.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at the east elevation with tenant sign, so I don't know how many signs are gonna go there. I got a challenge with that, because they're not gonna be lit. The overhang that you have, I'm looking at the east elevation. Those overhangs, are those just architectural detail? How is that set up? I don't.
When you say overhang, you mean the awnings?
Okay, yeah, I guess. I mean, the awning is usually over the door, but I get it.
Yeah, those would be a solar shade product that's incorporated into the storefront material. So it's one uniform system that would come out of the actual window application. So it's an awning system that's meant as a solar shade, also an architectural detail.
Okay, but only on where that brick facade is. I don't know, what happens where it goes, angles up on this west side, the east side elevation? What happens with that angle? Is that more occupied space there, or is that?
On the second floor, it's a large open area that probably about 18 feet to 22 feet clear to the bottom of the deck from the floor.
I think that more detailed plan would have been, helpful in regards to the second floor. We just don't know what's going on in this
The
building,
interior, you want
Yes.
to see the interior?
Yeah.
Okay.
just so we
So
can understand
Well, the
what's going
architect
on.
is, I just want to see the outside.
Let's understand what's going on in this building.
There's no interior tenants as of now. It's a spec building,
Mhm.
so there's not really, the inside of it is empty.
It's wide open space. What's the floor plates? 12?
Yes.
The proposed office building is 12.6, so that's just the one floor, but it's really a 25,000 square foot building.
Correct.
Any other questions? So did the engineer look at the stormwater? I mean, Mr. Tring has been through this rodeo before. I'm assuming the answer is yes. Did the town engineer review that, Sergio?
They reviewed what was submitted. I was not at the start review meeting when this occurred, so I don't know what the discussion. I do not recall.
Good. Anything else?
So are there architectural drawings yet, or just renderings in a site plan, basically?
That's what we received.
The architectural drawings are not 100% complete. That's why we don't have one here.
So does the town still have an engineer, and who is that, Sergio?
It is SEH.
SEH. So there should be some type of response for them either through you or HWC that says that it meets all the codes and the concerns. I'm sure that it does, but it would be nice to have that cover. To be able to just make sure that the things that are fundamental aren't overlooked while we look at pretty elevations.
We'll pull the site review meeting notes or minutes and see what the discussion occurred at the engineering.
I see there's a sidewalk detail, so how are we handling that?
Looks like sidewalks are on the whole perimeter. There's existing sidewalk already at that Powers Drive. So they're adding on Hagberg and along Calumet Avenue.
Correct.
Mr. Training for next meeting, can you let us know how many spots
Yes,
that you're over?
I apologize. I thought that was on there.
Yeah, because I would encourage if we're way over in spots, to have more green space or look at maybe aligning the building back a little bit farther off of Calumet Avenue if possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be like Walmart, you know, we don't need that many parking spaces. I mean, obviously, we don't know the tenants, but still.
But if you're bringing medical, it's usually probably not his.
Yeah, and just to help with the standpoint of the aesthetics of just kind of line and play nice in the sandbox, regardless of what the rule is. I mean, maybe we should look at whether or not they have to go through a variance. I mean, if you're gonna require to do a variance, we should have that conversation as well. Because, I mean, if you're doing a zoning code overview, then that's exactly one of the things that I flagged to see if you do a redevelopment in the middle of 14 buildings to be, elaborate, then you don't put one closer to the street while all the other ones sit back. Just doesn't make any sense.
It does not, you're absolutely correct. There are ordinances that allow for the variation, but this code does not support or written into that.
So as in past conversations, Sergio, by all means, please let me know if I could be of assistance, that we have a pragmatic approach to making sure that we're not just doing a sawtooth thing across all of our major thoroughfares. All right, this is a major investment. It's a beautiful building. Let's try to at least make it such that at the end of the day, people aren't going, what the hell? Anything else for the petitioner? Either or none, you know what to do. What do we want?
Public hearing.
It is a public hearing. So any other questions for this, folks, before I open it up for the public? We'll be in the public session. All right, I'll look it up for the public hearing. If you want to speak on this matter, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please. Going once, prove me wrong, I love it. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Sign in, please. Sign in.
My name is Karen Jesso from Cafe Borgia. And Mr. Turinga, thank you for doing our survey. You did a beautiful job. Mr. Wickland, you and Don Powers got our liquor license. And Mr. Peterson, I also am a Munster High School graduate.
Yeah.
I wanted to just go down a list of concerns here. I don't need any answers, just things that concern me about this project, which we're very happy to have this next door to us. I'm sure that the easement that butts up against us is up to code. I don't know what the size of their lot is. I know that we're on an acre. It must be much bigger than an acre because they're gonna be 12,000 square foot footprint, 24,000 square foot, 25,000 square foot building. I don't think that you have that information yet. Lighting and security was something that was a big benefit that the bank provided. I'm hoping that there's gonna be plenty of lighting there because we're getting a lot of people now that are traveling into Munster from even the state of Illinois. And it's getting very busy on the medical campus. So I just want to make sure that lighting is a consideration. The timetable, I don't know when they would start construction, when they anticipate that they might be finished. that's something that would be nice for us to know, maybe the different stages of construction and of just a general timetable that might affect our operation. As far as the Calumet Avenue setback, I can tell you that on that medical campus, sometimes parking is a very big problem, especially when there's a huge funeral and it's on a weekend that we're very busy. And then the McMahons and Williams, you know, they've got their business during the day. So I would, you know, put a lot of thought and consideration into giving up the parking spaces. I think that, you know, where they're thinking that they want to have as much parking as possible, I don't think necessarily that that's a bad idea. If the facade of the building and the quality of the building is going to be something other than, here's a big box building, here we have a lot of space, but it looks junky. It could be big, it doesn't have to be set back, but as long as they do a quality job on the architecture, I think that that would be very important. In fact, it might not be bad that the buildings are staggered, where they're up a little bit and we're back a little bit. It might make it a little more interesting. The dumpster, which will be on the north side, which will be by our patio. We've dealt with this with the McMahon office building. Now that they have medical tenants, they have hazardous waste. I just want to make sure that that's up to code, that, you know, we're not dealing with the problem there. With 110 parking spaces, if that's what it's going to be, or even around that number, maybe single entry access to the parking lot would not be sufficient. I don't know. It's just a thought. 25,000 square foot building, if each unit is a ballpark 2,000 square feet and there's circulation space, how many units will be in there? How many people will be working there? How many parking spaces will those people be using? Hours of operation? Is this going to be, you know, early into the evening? I'm just wondering this for my own self to see how it would affect our business. If they would need more parking that would be spilling into our parking, especially on the weekend. I'm just curious if when that the green area there was unused, that was west of the bank. I know that they were talking about possibly selling that. I'm just wondering if that's going to be part of the parking, I'm assuming.
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. And then we dealt with an issue with plumbing. There was hard line blockage on the south side of our building, which would be kind of where your dumpster is. And Mechanical Concepts came out with some kind of X-ray technology. So there's asphalt underneath there, probably under your lot as well. And I just want to make sure that the plumbing, you know, that it's going to be a quality job there so that that doesn't affect us. We've been told by the Munster Police that parking on the street is legal. So I don't think that that would change with this project. And then the height of the building. I don't know if you know that yet, how tall it's going to be. But we're very happy to have this next door. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this time of the year is a busy time. Unfortunately, I have been summoned to another activity, so I'm going to have to depart. I believe the board will retain a quorum, and I'm also pleased to see Dr. Hoffman here. He will be able to offer, he is the councilman that is closest to community hospital as when they discuss the cogeneration facility. And I'm hopeful, Dr. Joe, you'll be able to share with me tomorrow when I see you, your thoughts on the results of what they reported. So with that, I've got to take my leave and wish you guys all the best.
Thank you.
All right, let the record show. And is there anybody else on the public hearing, for the public hearing component on this petition to come up and speak on this matter? Going once, going twice? I'll call the public hearing portion of this closed and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Baker, I think at this point, I'd like to table this the next month. I'd like to see the architectural drawings that you said are almost finished. I think Cafe Borgia as a neighbor and giving their feedback tonight. My iPad's running slow right now. I think that dumpster is located really close to their parking lot, isn't it? I can't get my, it's not working right now.
Here,
Show me
is
where
this
parking
it
lot.
right here?
Dumpster is right over here, right?
Correct.
So I think that's a horrible location to have the dumpster, because I think when I'm sitting outside, which I frequently do, since I walk in my neighborhood over Cafe Borgia and sit in the patio in the summertime, I really don't want to sit in the patio and see the dumpster right behind me.
Or smell it.
You know,
Yeah.
nor do I want to smell the dumpster or be anywhere near that area close to a restaurant.
And please don't put it close to Calumet Avenue either.
Where would we put it?
Well, I think you gotta
Anywhere
get
but those
closer,
two places.
you gotta get close to that drive or something over that way in the corner.
You guys get paid for it, not me.
No, but if I could,
Yeah.
it's okay.
If you go back to the site plan, one of the reasons we located it here was it gives dumpster the access for the building, people in the building to use it. Also for the dumpster to be serviced. This is a full masonry enclosure with the gate, have a side man gate too, so you don't have to operate the man gates. We
Where
can
do you
make
live?
it
I'll put a
taller.
dumpster about
Yeah.
30 feet from
Yeah.
your house and
It's
see
literally
it, right?
every
Well,
minute.
I'll do it in a nice
It's not
space.
a restaurant user, so without a grease dumpster or other dumpsters,
We don't know what kind of
smells-
dumpster activity, because
You don't know the
you don't have
tenants.
the tenants yet.
Yeah.
Well, restaurant use I don't think would conform with this, would it?
Right.
Um,
Well, I think
But
you look at
if we-
closing that other entrance up and maybe sticking it somewhere else.
Because we looked up here and I don't know the comment, I don't remember specifically from the meetings we have during workshop, but I think we originally had it up here. And I think the request was to move it over to here.
I think right now the bank's got it over towards the south west, isn't it?
Would you want a large structure here? We could put a large, the dumpster enclosure is a large masonry structure,
Just
so
away from that outdoor seating at Cafe, I mean, I think we all love Cafe Borgia, and I love that patio, I agree with you, I don't want that dumpster.
we could literally put it anywhere. My question is
Anywhere
just
but
where
here.
do you want it to put it? Because if I bring it back and I could say, we put it here, and you're like, why would we want it there? It looks like a doghouse in the middle of your development.
What about the southwest corner?
I don't think,
I think
as of right now, the entrance there that would be the last place I would
Oh.
think.
The
Here.
problem is this lot has 3 fronts. And code does not allow dumpsters in the front.
What's the front in your view, though?
Basically anything but this side.
So you have 3 fronts, is that what you're saying? I mean, but if you're gonna play, let's go by the rules, you have to designate what you're considering the front. I would consider the front Calumet, but some people would argue and say Powers.
So. We
The
had,
way the code is set up, the roadways are the fronts, so there's 3 here.
what if we just slid it down to here? Get it a little further away.
Well, even if you shifted the building, which we're suggesting, to line up with Cafe Borgia, that would just eliminate that, you could move the dumpster over with the building. If that's something that you're able to achieve.
As far away from the patio of your neighbor as you can. How's that?
Okay.
I move it all the way towards the entrance on Powers Drive.
So we can line up with this right there.
And it looks
Yeah.
like another curb cut there also on Powers Drive, right? So that's an addition to what's currently out there. So right now, we only have, coming off of Hagberg is the only ingress egress, and you're looking to add another one off of Powers.
Right.
I would encourage the Powers Drive one to be the primary,
I agree.
that's to this property.
I'll close the Hagberg one.
Yep.
That would be something to entertain, Sergio.
We'll advise them of the process for that.
All right, so you made a motion, Mr. Rapp, and I'm sorry, I'm
I
old.
made a motion to table this until architectural drawings are complete. Building material samples are presented,
Signage plan,
signage plan, looking at the entrance as well as dumpster location.
Confirmation from the town engineer on the stormwater.
no- Any other items?
Architectural drawings
Yeah,
include, yeah, I know, it's including elevations, the,
Elevation, materials.
yeah.
Are we just, are they gonna be looking into dropping the frontage back? Looking at the parking number?
Yeah, are we allowed to?
Well,
Yes.
they can present that to their owners, who meets code on the location. And it was nice hearing the feedback on Cafe Borgia being a neighbor just next to them regarding where the building's located. So we appreciate your comments tonight for coming. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'd like to be involved.
So that's my.
Okay,
motion.
so there's a motion. Is there a second? And a second, any discussion on that motion? Be there none, Sergio?
Ms. Brannigan.
Yes.
Dr. Hopper.
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes,
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. All right, moving right along. Next up is the finding of facts.
May I ask a question or two?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Mr.
Thank you very
Tranga.
much. Based on this not being the regularly scheduled meeting, how long do we have before all this information has to be gathered and gotten to you to be able to make the next meeting?
Well, the public hearing is closed, right? So we don't get on a notice. So. Would you
I
have it for the
don't
next
work
meeting?
for the government, so you'd have to work through staff for all
When
that.
is the next meeting, sir?
November 12th. Is that sufficient time? If not, we can.
Well, I don't know. See, part of the issue that I've had from the beginning with this is that the response back from the town comes in your staff report, but we don't get any response until we see the staff report. And that doesn't come out until a day or two before the meeting. So, I mean, if there were issues, we could have probably addressed some of these. Now, granted, I'm not saying Sergio did anything wrong. I'm just saying that we didn't know.
But you heard as part of the process, Mr. Tranga, is that this should have gone through preliminary hearing first. So a lot of this stuff should have already been addressed as far as getting vetted through the commission prior to go to public hearing. And we're working on that. Seems to be a misstep, for lack of a better word, as it relates to the transition of administrations.
Okay, all right. We will do our best to get everything we can before the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the finding of facts, PC 24-008, development plan review. Jeannie Armando of MRV Architects received approval of a development plan for the exterior renovation, including parapet walls, exterior finishes, signage, landscape island control, drive-through flow, and upgrade the drive-through equipment for the Taco Bell at 7949 Calumet Avenue. This is already approved. This is a finding of facts. This is another governmental step that needs to be taken. What say you folks? Because we have more stuff to do.
I'll make a motion to approve PC 24-008 findings of fact.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
This is one of those ones I wish, take off for vacation and come back, I got a new Taco Bell storage.
Just a second.
Exactly. So I wish there was a preliminary hearing and a public hearing for this.
There was a public hearing.
I wasn't there, so one.
Right? It was new stuff. All right, so there's a motion and a second and some diatribe. Any other discussion? Be there none. Sergio?
Ms. Brannigan.
Yes.
Dr. Hopper.
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
yes,
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes. Moving right along, a continued discussion of the study session for PC 24-007 PUD amendment, Annie Cornell VRQ LLC representing Powers Health and requesting an amendment to the Community Hospital Plan Unit Development to add a cogeneration unit, or a CHP, to the northeast side of the community hospital located at 901 MacArthur. Mr. Mendoza, there's been a lot of discussion on this. Has the staff seen all the things that have been requested and have an opinion on said?
Yes, we've met on site. They've provided the staff with the requests from the planning commission, which included the other cogeneration sites, as well as a sound study and a screening plan. This is under a study session for consideration or for discussion by the planning commission with regards to our additional documentation requested by 3 months ago, 2 months ago.
So yes, you're happy with that? I'm sorry, you did that on purpose. Yes?
Yep.
All right, is there somebody to speak on behalf of this petition? Yes, sir. State your name and address for the record.
Andy Quinnell, 1938 Martha Street, Munster, Indiana.
What say you, sir?
We have provided sound study. I have actually met with Mr. Mendoza, Dr. Hofer, and actually Ms. Johns on site to show them the sound. The existing chiller that sits there right now is almost at 55 dBs. So we are, and that's what our unit will be making. I've also provided the updated screening, which actually screens the entire unit. You no longer, as you can see here, you can no longer see any of the unit behind that. We've added a screen wall above the wall that we're installing there, basically going to look just like it looked right now. If you were to pull up to it after it's done, it will look very similar to what it is now, just out a little further from the building.
Is that it?
That's it. Those were the requests.
Okay. All right, bring it back to the board.
So, Mr. Chairman, what's the process now? This is the study session. What are we looking to accomplish?
So for all the things that were brought up, my understanding is that have those been addressed, and according to Mr. Mendoza, they have. We still are in study session, so correct me if I'm wrong, between you, Mr. Mendoza, and you, Mr. Wickland, that there has to be a motion to take it out of study session and set it for a public hearing. If there's not any other questions as it relates to screening, sound, and all the other issues that we've discussed over the past, and or any other concerns that might have come up.
My question is Sergio, what's the premise here for variance on adding mechanical units to a building?
They have to be screened.
Okay, so you have to set, Target wants to put a mechanical unit on their roof. And as long as they're screened, we have to set it to a public hearing, or is that just something you get a building permit?
This is an amendment to the PUD. They're adding an additional use that's not listed on the original PUD and are requesting to include that. So
So if you weren't in a PUD, you could just go ahead and put a screen wall up there and.
as long as they would come in for site review to make sure it meets the requirements, if the ordinance meets more than 50% of changes to the facade, then they would come back before this commission for review.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you're adding a screening on every single building, high mechanical unit, say one unit, that's a lot of.
It depends on
that's
the
a lot
amount
of
of work.
meetings.
The way the ordinance reads is 50% of the facade improvements.
Any questions from the commission for the petitioner?
I'm just looking at the sound study with the data on that first page. Just so I understand, just because I don't see a drawing, included with that sound study, which curve are we talking about? We're talking about the curve on the street of Columbia?
Yes, it's on the curve of Columbia. When I met Mr. Mendoza and Dr. Holford out there, we kind of discussed it and said, hey, how about if because we'd like to have a benchmark, right? What it sounds like right now. And then when we bring the unit up, if somebody were to say something, we could do this. So we agreed on the times and kind of the distances away from the unit to get the readings. So.
What is the?
I will say, oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on, Jennifer. Go ahead, Councilman. Go ahead, Councilman. That's you.
What does the north end of that cover look like?
It will look the same as this, but it will have the doors as, Sergio, do we have the old drawings in there?
No.
No, okay. Dr. Hofer, I can email you that as soon as we,
And that
tomorrow.
would be the same as the
It'll be the same as this, but there's doors on,
south side.
yeah, it's on the north side. They're over here by the transformer and all that. I don't know if you remember on the original drawings, there's a big set of double doors that are, actually, I believe it's an overhead door, I apologize, that will allow you to get in here to service it. So you'll have those doors, and then this same screening goes around, and it goes around here.
South side.
Yeah.
And do we know how much that screening it even dampens it further?
Yes. So we have a 55 dB enclosure, which is, the highest rating or the best rating you can get for one of these. That enclosure between the masonry enclosure and the screening will even dampen it even more.
And there's no like ricochet off, it being close to the building, ricocheting off the building.
And not that I'm aware of, I don't think there would be. And even so, as you can see, a 55 dBs at the wall, you know, it kind of starts to dissipate, you know, as you get further away from the building, or actually it gets louder as you get further away because you start to pick up the Columbia Avenue noise and everything.
Did you guys send a letter to the residents or?
That will go out tomorrow as soon as we've been set for public hearing, the letter goes out.
Anything else, Councilman? All right, Mrs. Johns, you're up.
I appreciate the due diligence on the part of Mr. Quinnell. I went out there, I met with him, and I appreciate him humoring all of our questions, my question about the sound study. With that, Mr. President, am I able to make a motion to set this for public hearing?
Give me a second to make sure there's not any other discussion.
I do have a question. The drawing just below and mine is rotated, I can't get it. But the three options of the metal panel, the steel with the metal panel,
It's on here.
This is structural,
right
this is
there.
just structural. It's this one that we're going to be using. This is the current design, and we had two of them we were looking at, and this is what we would be using. So this is masonry going up to here, Ms. Brannigan, and then it'll be the screening from that.
Okay.
Okay?
And how is that one, why was that one chosen over, I'm just curious. The other
Because this actually was a screen wall that went, this was trying to do screening a metal panel wall all the way up. If you notice, so and we had created this drawing, we just, although with Revit and all, we could have yanked that out pretty quick, but
I love that.
I know,
All right,
so,
thank you.
yep.
Any other discussion?
And the majority of the noise of this unit is from the base or the top?
I would say more from the base, Jay, yeah, more from the base.
And that's gonna be had.
That's
Make
down,
sure we have
that's
the
down
metal-
here.
the metal
If
structure.
we go back to the, yeah, it's all, the majority of this unit is underneath here.
And that's metal. the bottom.
Down here, no, this is masonry. This is a CMU with masonry.
Good. I like it.
Mrs. Johns,
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion to set this for public hearing.
there's a motion to set it for public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? Either none, Mr. Mendoza.
Ms. Brannigan,
Yes.
Dr. Hopper,
Yes.
Ms. Johns,
Yes,
Mr. Raffin,
Yes.
and President Baker.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. See you next month.
Yes. On the 12th.
Next regular meeting is November 12th, 2024. If there's nothing else for the greater good, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. See you next month. Thank you for helping us make Munster a better place to
Just
live.
so everyone knows that Yale University Sound Study, a household refrigerator is 55 decibels.
I know, it keeps me up every night.
Does it? My wife is.
That's why we use, we use ice coolers.
The vacuum is 75.
Hey, Jennifer, we can see you now.
Oh, there you are.
Your glasses look red.
You took the tape off your camera. You can
can
see
you
it.
see me now?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, that's weird. How did that happen? Hi, friends.
Well, you took the drawings down, I guess, so maybe that.
Oh, I wouldn't.
I must have done something, so
Good.
user error.